On the afternoon of the 14th, Mark McClellan led us downtown from Fort McHenry to the Inner Harbor for another round of sightseeing. Here's the Inner Harbor. We're on our way to find a food court for lunch. And sure enough, the Constellation has been dismasted. We always seem to arrive at these historic monuments when they're in a state of repair, such as the HMS Victory in Portsmouth, saw it without its spars. Now it's lunchtime at Five Guys, and we're planning this afternoon's itinerary. We got about 3 hours before we'll probably have a dinner hour.
A few minutes ago you mentioned Falls Point. That's
Fells Point. Fells Point is still...
Fells Point, eh?
Because, but that's more of a day. You know, you're planning on doing a similar thing tomorrow. Because I need to make a phone call, but I can join you tomorrow.
One of our stops was a Barnes & Noble store, which occupies a former industrial site. This Barnes & Noble bookstore used to be the power plant that powered all of Baltimore at one time. And like the superannuated coal-powered plant in Spokane, they've preserved the chimneys, smokestacks, as historical artifacts. Leaving Barnes & Noble where Joanne was unable to find her book, we walked around the harbor to Federal Hill. Now we've come up here to Federal Hill, on the opposite the waterfront. Hello folks, here we are in Baltimore.
And who's on your right?
Oh, this is Frank Denton.
He's on your left.
Tour guide, Mark, the Magnificent.
Mark McClellan.
Hello. I think we ought to call Dan tonight. Where's that down there?
What kind of?
That ring.
This is they multi-purpose. They do beach volleyball teams. They have trapeze class. They have soccer teams and everything. Rush field.
After we climbed down from Federal Hill, Mark got us on the right bus to get us to Vernon Place in Baltimore's own Washington Monument. We've come up here to the Washington Monument and a monument park that flows down the hill in several directions from that Washington Monument. Now this is Monument Heights for sure. Washington Square, whatever. There's the Methodist Church on the right, Lafayette on the left, and up on this pedestal, George Washington. Our last stop of the day, before finding an excellent restaurant in the Italian Quarter, was at Baltimore's iconic Shot Tower. Well, we've come down here back to the bottom of the city here, not far from the Inner Harbor, to see the historic Shot Tower. Dropped molten lead into water, and they sank to the bottom as perfect spheres, suitable for shooting out of guns. One of my goals was to see the B&O Railroad History Museum. And so, the next day, when we returned to Baltimore, Mark got us on the bus that got me where I wanted to go. September 15th, and these good folks are going to indulge my interest in trains by going to the Baltimore B&O Railroad Museum. Now here's the vast array of exhibits in this roundhouse.
And it does look like a vast array.
A number of docents ranged about giving scheduled talks. From one of them, we learned that in the early days, freight was transported on horse-drawn carts over flimsy wooden rails capped by a thin sheet of metal. Here's an early B&O freight carrier. Horses could pull that load about 7 miles before they tired out. Here our docent explains this problem B&O encountered as it pushed its rails toward the Ohio River.
We're now almost 60 miles west. We have stables every 7 miles. So Board of Directors meeting, 1830. Guess who stands up? The accountant. Hey guys, horses. We're buying an awful lot of horses. Matter of fact, we're buying way too many horses, and we're only to Martinsburg.
Enter inventor and entrepreneur Peter Cooper.
But he's a tinkerer. He likes to play around with mechanical things. So he appears before the Board of Directors in the spring of 1830, and he says, have I got a deal for you? Let me use your shops, let me have access to your personnel, let me have access to all your materials, and I will build you a steam engine that will run on your track without destroying it, and I'll be able to pull at least twice as much as what Rusty can.
Well, he did. He created the Tom Thumb, the famous Tom Thumb, that lost the famous race with a horse when it broke down, but still proved its efficiency. But it wasn't Peter Cooper's engine that pulled B&O's freight in the early days. It was an improved version of his engine, built by a watchmaker and tinkerer from York, Pennsylvania, named Phineas Davis. Here it is. They're looking at an 1832 engine called the Grasshopper. Those connecting rods popped up and down to power the wheels. Well, the docent talked about the history of the B&O Railroad and the Peter Cooper's first engine and Phineas Davis's first engine and so on. Now we'd better get something to eat. Look at this formidable array of ancient engines. The theme here is railroading during the Civil War era. Here's the engine that pulled President Lincoln's funeral train. I soon wandered away from our group and found a model railroad exhibit in an adjoining exhibit car. Model railroad here.
That's a model of the Pointer Rock Station.
It really is Gothic, isn't it?
This would be the Patapsco River. Excuse me, Potomac River.
How many people had a hand in putting this together?
This was put together by a professional group that charged thousands of dollars per square foot. So if you'd like one in your house and you win the lottery, they will be happy to knock on your door.
They must have cut their teeth on amateur model railroading before they offered their services for money, I would think.
Well, they're a professional architectural group, so if you have a shopping center and you want a realistic looking, what it looks like with the surroundings, 5x5 or whatever, they would build that for you. Here I've made use of almost all of the scanty supply of clips I recorded at the B&O Museum, and so now it's time for me to find my group, and I apologize for my absence.